Hello, my name's Dave Burrows and welcome to episode 11 of the Ski Instructor Podcast. I don't think there's anyone that we've interviewed yet who has or could be said to have had such a large ski school as today's interview, which is Jon Ballou, who's the managing director of the Ski and Snowboard Schools Aspen Skiing Company. Aspen Skiing Company has around, I think Jon says in the interview, about 1,250 on-snow ski instructors, which is pretty serious enterprise to manage across, I think it's four different mountains. And we had a great chat about that. Now, I should warn you, Jon's an extremely busy man. I managed to catch him in between meetings, and so the first maybe 10 minutes of the interview are from his car, so the sound isn't amazing, but if you stick with it, as soon as he gets out of the car and back into his office, the sound quality goes okay. So yeah, just persist with this one a little bit. Now, I wanted to interview Jon for some time, but just to find out the sheer scale of his operation and what he's got going on there. I only managed to grab about 45 minutes with him, and I'd like to do a follow-up because I think he's got a lot to say about the technical side of skiing, that's for sure. But I think you'll find a lot of cool stuff in this one. So enjoy the first half. We talk mainly about the ski school and then on touching on some skiing, so the topic of teaching, and then I'll see you somewhere in the middle. Okay, enjoy. All right, welcome to the Ski Instructor Podcast. Jon Ballou, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, well, that's all right. Thank you, and thank you for making the time. For those of our listeners that don't know, Jon's an extremely busy guy and in and out of meetings all the time. So it's great that we managed to grab you. That's terrific. And while I was waiting for you, waiting for you to connect, I'm looking in the background at, I guess, every skier's favourite movie, Aspen Extreme, and I'm sitting there. I can't help but ask you that, right? It's part of the furniture.
Fair enough.
Now, the only thing that I wanted to mention about it, apart from it being my favourite film, is that I always identify more with the Dexter character than the TJ character. I always like.
Well, in my office, I have the Mount Brighton lift maintenance hat.
Oh, no, you're joking. I would kill for one of those.
Well, I used to work at Mount Brighton. That's where my first teaching job was.
Oh my God! Really? What a coincidence!
Yeah, I taught there on and off from 1990 to 1996.
Oh, it's amazing.
Through high school and the little bit of university that I did.
Uh-huh. Well, if I didn't have a strict helmet policy in my ski school, I would be rocking the backwards baseball cap and goggles look. Got to be honest.
Yeah, same. We have the same policy, so we can't do that. But I do like it.
Yeah. So tell me, give me a potted history. How did you end up being the big boss of Aspen Ski School? And
well, actually, I'm pretty short. I'm 5'8", and I don't weigh that much, like 155 pounds, so I'm not big at all. How did I end up? Totally by accident. Some people would argue that, but it was a complete accident. All I really ever wanted to do when I was a kid, through at least high school, is I wanted to teach skiing. And people kept kicking me upwards, so I ended up here. I started in junior high, and then periodically I taught through junior high, high school, and college. And then when I was 20, I decided finishing a music degree didn't make a lot of sense, so I'd take especially going to debt for a music degree or spending money on it didn't make a lot of sense because I wasn't sure what I'd do with that. So other than perform, and if I was going to perform, I didn't need the degree to do it. So I figured I'd take a couple of years off and finish my qualifications. I'd go to level 2 level 1 or level 2 certified instructor at that point. Figured I'll finish up through my full certification and see where that goes. But then, meanwhile, I'll get residency in Colorado and figure out what I actually want to study. And then it was a pretty long year off. I finished qualifications, then started teaching in New Zealand and the U.S. And when I was 23, I was in Steamboat from 20 to 23. And when I was 23, I decided, all right, Steamboat's wonderful. I love this place, but I want to go try something else. And I was going to go to Austria. That was my plan. Go to Austria, spend a year learning German, teaching the Oberschule, and then try to get into the Bundessportheim and take the entry exam to the Staatlich test to get into that program. But at the same time, I got recruited by Aspen. I came and took a look, and a guy named Julian Gregory, who was the Snowmass general manager at the time, recruited me, and I said, okay, let's take a look at Aspen. I skied around here for a couple days, checked it out, and said, this has got the training I'm looking for. It's got great terrain. It's got great clientele. I'll try this for a couple of years. And 21 years later, I'm still here.
You're still here. Can't get rid of you.
Yeah, not really. That's the ones that they keep giving me cooler jobs. Not just teaching skiing. Well, I've always had a strong passion for teaching skiing and introducing skiers to the sport, or developing their love and ability in the sport, or I should say developing their love for the sport and the environment through developing their ability. And that's what I've really been about. I've been people who know me would agree with this. I'm kind of a techno geek as far as skiing goes. I'm really into gear and mechanics of skiing and kind of the hard fun associated with real skill development, which naturally leads you to an affinity for training. So my pathway in there was as a teaching pro instructor was to develop a training skill set and training qualifications. So that pushed me in 2002. I got the opportunity to run the training program for the Buttermilk Ski School as a lead trainer there, and then became an examiner shortly thereafter in both New Zealand and the U.S. Started working in training programs on both sides. And then when I was 31, thank you. I had the opportunity to become the Alpine Chair. At the time, it was called Alpine Chair and Chief Examiner. Those are the two roles that were combined. Some countries called it Technical Director, but we called it Alpine Chair and Chief Examiner. Now it's just called Alpine Chair. The chairperson for the Alpine Committee for PSIA Rocky Mountain, which is the region that Aspen, that section, one of 8 divisions. In PSIA. So I got into leadership in snow sports training from that, and I did that for a few years, 11. I just retired from that in May. But because of that, and I also ended up taking a very similar role as education coordinator for the New Zealand Ski Instructors Alliance in 2010, that gave me quite a bit of insight into training and curriculum design and training on a large scale, and creating training programs for lots of different directions and program management. And in Aspen, at the same time, I kind of started acquiring more responsibility within training. I was still a working pro, but in 2011, the company Aspen, we decided the role of training manager / training director came up. So given the things I was doing around the world, it made sense to apply for that, and that was successful. So I did that, and then kind of through a few years of that, and my relationship with the management team here, I started to recognize some things some skill sets that I hadn't used in a while. And I have a background in food and beverage management, so the idea of P&L management and systems for operational processes makes sense to me. I just haven't really applied that to management within the snow sports industry. So I ended up started to dig into the business here, and worked very closely with my boss now and predecessor in this role, Katie Ertles, who's the senior vice president of mountain operations now, formerly the managing director of the ski and snowboard schools.
Okay.
We worked on developing our managerial structures and processes, managerial development, and that sort of led me into director of operations, and then that led me into managing director. So that's the long story of how I ended up where I am.
Well, what I really, really like is when we speak to people stateside, is that they're really, really good. And this happened to my friend Nick, who's a dive instructor. He ended up working sort of in the Caribbean with lots of American clients. And people become really, really good when they go stateside of kind of giving you like all of the information that you need to know about themselves. And it's like, I think it's a cultural thing, because us kind of us English folk, we're not quite as quick. It would take a long time to get all of that information out of me, that's for sure. But it's just a cultural difference, I guess. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that you're a musician. There are a surprising number of ski instructors that are musical people. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. They're solitary, they're individual, they're also collaborative, but it's like skiing or snowboarding, like snow sports, or any sport for that matter, non-team sport particularly. Skill development is infinite, an endless path, and that's the same with musical development. You can practice fundamentals and basics until you're dead. You'll never be perfect at them. It's just there is no end to development based on very simple principles. There's a great parallel in how we acquire skills between those areas, and why people who are drawn to skill acquisition would be drawn to both sides.
Well, that's interesting. It's only something I've noticed, but clearly you've reflected on that more than I have. Okay, cool. Now, how big is the Aspen Ski School? I'd heard 1,500 instructors, but I can't believe that's real.
No, 1,500 instructors is an exaggeration. There's about 1,250 instructors, which we call pros.
That's still a lot.
1,200. The total staff is between 1,400 and 1,500, and that includes like childcare, daycare centers, support staff, sales and reservationists, non-on-snow management. We have in our two main children's centers, we have rental shops that have rental areas that have techs that also run our children-specific learner slopes. We have support staff that handle maintenance of kids' tree trails and signage and sales and marketing and finance. These are all, you put it all together, it's between 1,400 and 1,500. The support staff is pretty constant, but the pro body, the instructor body, it fluctuates a bit. This year I anticipate in the mid 1,200s.
That's incredible. So I have enough trouble managing my ski school at 10 guys.
It's the same. You just need more people to do it.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
More people, more systems.
So
if I had to manage 10 people, myself,
yeah,
I'd have trouble doing it. I manage in our structure. I've got 7 people that report to me.
Okay, and so that's how you break it down.
Yeah, so it gets broken into pods, right? It's a big organization, a medium-sized organization with a significant structure. Now we do run pretty lean for the 1,400 to 1,500 people we've got. I've got a management team of 56, 55, something like
okay.
that. So it's not a lot of people to manage this group, but we do have a structure in place to do it. So
okay.
We all focus on slightly different things.
Yeah, I can well imagine. So you've got kind of certain reporting structures. To manage 1,200 ski instructor egos is going to be is a job that you wouldn't want to be doing.
We don't manage the egos. Egos are good. You just leave those alone.
And how much roughly, so you've got 1,200 staff on the hill. Let's say they're all ski instructors, those guys. How many hours roughly are they getting through a season if there was an average?
Well, we have different levels of commitment, like many schools do.
Okay.
Our most full-time, our full-time crew is required to have a minimum of 360 hours of teaching.
Okay.
And that would be on the very low side of full-time. And a little over half of our people are full-time. So, The most full-time people are going to get more like, let's see, what did I used to do? Our most hours worked in a season, somebody always gets over 800.
No,
right around 800 hours.
That's big. Okay.
I used to do, my biggest year as a pro was 792. But I would kind of look at 600, 650, and that range is pretty normal.
Okay.
Now, that's still on the high end, but our full-time people are between, it's not uncommon to be high fours, mid 500s.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty normal. If you're there full-time, you'll figure that out.
All right, and that's the full-time crew, and that's about half of your staff.
Yeah.
And the rest are kind of what we call.
Requirement is 100 hours. That's just bare minimum. Is 100 hours.
So the other guys, they're sort of auxiliaries, and they come and go during super high season or whatever.
Depending on what they want to do with their business and how they build it, right?
Right. Okay. Cool.
We have a strong culture of independent business development. So a lot of the work here is, 75% of it's request private here.
Oh, really? So people are just building up their own clientele.
There's group lessons also, but in our private lessons, over 75% of it for the company is request, 76 or 77%.
That's
so
amazing.
People really do develop the business they want to develop, and then we have a significant group business as well.
Yeah. That's a pretty serious operation that's going on there, right? I had no idea that many people were coming. That's extraordinary. Really, really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the places in the world you can come to be a full-time professional pro, meaning this is what you do for a living.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's enough probably to see you living year round, I guess.
Close, yeah. Most people. I mean, there are people. Lots of people who are doing a considerable number of hours who would then go spend their summer on the beach in Bali.
Yeah.
They made enough to make it work. Myself, I would go take a lesser paying job. Like when I was teaching full time, I would go to New Zealand, and New Zealand is an amazing place to teach. Absolutely love it, but you're not going to make a huge living there. You're going to do better than break even.
Yeah,
you'll do all right.
Yeah,
if you spend some time doing it. But it's that was not my income. That was sustained me in the off season, while my income and my savings was my teaching.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, cool. I wanted to quickly move on from that to the subject of teaching. I listened to a podcast that you did back in, I can't remember when it was, with the PSIA a while back. And you said that everyone always asks you about technical stuff, and I'm deliberately kind of leaving that alone. I may leave it, if we've got time, we'll touch on it later. But no one talks to you about teaching. And I think that's quite interesting. I don't think there's enough focus on podcasts and general media about teaching in our industry.
Well, of course not.
No.
That's the nature of the business, though, right?
Well,
how many people? Very few of us at the top end got into the industry because I really want to teach.
I think
what
it's something.
Got into it is,
it's something you find out.
I know why I got into teaching skiing.
Yeah, because you want to ski.
I wanted cheap gear or free gear. I was 14, by the way, but I wanted cheap gear or free gear. I wanted a free pass. I wanted to ski all the time, and I wanted to meet girls.
Yeah.
In that list, and maybe the girls thing might have been much higher on the list, but the
is it 14, right?
but also probably very misguided. On that list, really want to teach beginners how to ski didn't really hit that. That was something that developed. The love for teaching developed through doing it, not as the original motivator.
Yeah,
and
it's interesting. I didn't discover
mirrors
it.
What most people really got into it for
to
begin with, right? Some version of that where teaching is something you want to do, or you have an affinity for it in some manner, but the primary motivator is the sport. I mean, if we just think of it logically, if you were to say that teaching were the primary motivator, what you'd end up doing is you'd go be a teacher. You wouldn't do something that you can only do 4 to 5 months a year if your main goal is to teach. Your goal is to teach skiing or snowboarding. Therefore, the context is more important than the actual act of teaching.
No, I think it's really valid. I mean, I didn't really realize my love of the teaching aspect to it until I'd started doing it. I like you, I was thinking, ski all winter would be brilliant. But actually, the teaching thing came a little bit after. It didn't take very long. You think, this is a really cool thing, Really, really cool.
I'd say that's the people who get great at this industry. I mean, really great. Some of them start with the love of teaching and they move into the skiing part of it or snowboarding part of it. But the majority, I would say,
and this is just because of the people, majority, they develop the equal love, if not the greater love, for passing the information on.
Yeah.
But the information they gain through the practice and development of their skill set is always central to their motivation.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear that.
Just look at the amount of time our top people in the industry spend practicing.
Yeah, that's true. One of the other bubbles that I've got here is that were you into ski?
I was.
You were?
I was the last two for the US.
Okay, all right. Because what I really wanted to talk to somebody about was the threads of what's interesting in teaching that came out of Interski, or indeed your New Zealand winter, because I know that's a bit of a melting pot of a lot of top skiers. What have you come across in teaching lately that's been quite interesting to you? Those different ideas.
Well, really, the most interesting to me is, okay, first of all, it's not methodological. The groups that I think are putting out their new breakthroughs in methodological versions and methodology aren't really doing anything new.
No.
I don't find that very interesting. So at what point a wedge happens, something technical, or saying we're going to make a shift to a different type of progression, or some element of instructor behavior and how they set goals. It's nothing new. The stuff that I find really interesting is the move away from methodological and mechanical teaching to humanistic teaching. Mm-hmm. It used to be that you go to Interski and you see, okay, this country's doing it this way and that country's doing it that way, and it was about the true difference of how they skied, what they did, and how how they built a skier. Mm-hmm. And we're realizing that doesn't really matter. Mm. Some people will kill me for this, but for saying that, but that doesn't, as a major ski school, as director of a major ski school, that doesn't really matter. You know what really matters is the person we spend time with, and the relationship we build. As one of my mentors, Weems Westfeld, a member of an earlier PSIA interski team, said, despite the best efforts of ski instructors, students will learn to ski simply by going skiing. Yeah,
well, that's true.
So the value is not the content, the value that in the instructor. There's a piece of that that's really important. Yeah, you got to be a master of your trade, no question. But the real value is in the relationships we build and the love for the sport that we pass on, that creates the intrinsic desire to learn. Yeah. And the more teaching moves towards that, and some countries are further along than others, but everybody at Interski recognized the need for that it didn't matter what you taught that much. I mean, of course it matters, right? But that's not the place we need to focus. We need to focus on how do we engage people and help them fall in love with the sport the same way we did, knowing that they can't do it the same way we did it, or they would have already done it. We're going to have to help them find their own individual passion and love for the sport, so that it truly is about what they want to do and who they want to be, and not whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, and I think you're much more in touch over there with the concept of the client experience than maybe we are over here in Europe.
I disagree with that. I think that it's I don't see one country way ahead of another. In theory, yeah, there are some countries that are further ahead. There's been a lot of research done here, but Basie's done quite a bit of research in that too. Mm-hmm. And you see it depending on and what somebody loves about the sport, and what's going to cause them to love it is culturally different. I find that each system that's out there, for the most part, generally matches the culture of the people they're trying to reach.
No, that's
so it's not like one's better than the other. You look at the ESF and as the Basie and the Basie and PSIA are pretty similar in a lot of ways. There's some stark differences, but there's some similarities, and same with New Zealand. You look at ESF and it's different. It's a different way of looking at things, but it has a huge following within French culture. Yeah. And you work in that environment much more than I do. But my understanding is it's very successful in its process for the culture it's trying to reach.
Yeah,
not necessarily speaking to a different culture. And that's the same with the APSI, the Australian system. For me, it's incredibly mechanical. But when you look at how it reaches the people that it's targeting, it's fantastic. And the people who work in that system, when they come over here, they just shift. and they're phenomenally well trained trainers and examiners and pros who come through that system. But if they use exactly what came to that system in the U.S., it doesn't work nearly as well as it did when it was in Australia. But if they're versatile and they're trained well, they just make the switch.
And how would that manifest itself? How would that look if I'm an American and I'm being taught by a PSIA trained instructor? How does that match your culture? What they do?
If the instructor is strong and meets the ideals that we're putting out there, the most important thing they're going to do is get to know the person and what truly motivates them. Digging beyond the mechanical. I want to get better at this one thing. Okay, that may be true right this second. Mm-hmm. But if you're my student, that's my gateway to you, not my gateway to your technique. Mm-hmm. Because what's really going to bring you back is the relationship we create, and that's going to allow you to take advantage of the total expertise I have, not just I want to learn how to ski that bump line better, or that run over there is scaring the crap out of me. I want to figure out how to conquer that, or I don't know how to stop. Those are, I can teach you that in an hour, but the life-changing experience that you're going to get through really becoming part of the mountain environment, that's only going to happen if I use that gateway of that piece, that thing you give me to go deeper and find out your real motivations, who you are as a person, what you want to be, what inspires you, motivates you, and take you to places you've never thought of within the mountain environment.
And within that, then, that is sort of going back, that comes full circle with the culture that you're trying to create, where you're building a love for the mountain, and these people come back, right? Building skier numbers in essence.
That's exactly it.
Mm. No, it's true.
This is how we as pros can influence the industry. We can influence the industry not just by making people better skiers. Yeah, that's fine. That's the very superficial. We influence the industry by creating lifelong skiers who love it, who want to learn more, who want to develop, because the more they develop, the more fun they have. I mean, the simplest way to say it is our old motto in the ski school here, and we still live by it, is better skier and riders have more fun. No, it's very superficial. Yeah. But they have more fun not because they're better at skiing and riding, but because they can experience the mountain environment in different ways, and the ever challenging, the incremental challenges that can be overcome and release that sense of accomplishment and addictive rush of dopamine that goes with that keeps them saying, I have to go back to the mountain environment to find me.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode that we've got here with Jon. I know it's only a short one, but there's so much good stuff out of it, and Jon really talks quite fast, so there's probably the same amount of content as if you had a podcast from me for an hour and a half, which is excellent. Here in the Swiss Alps, we've had some amazing snow over the last 2 weeks. I mean, I was due to take a group to Saas Fee on Sunday, and that was called off because Saas Fee had too much snow. The resort was cut off actually until Monday. They'd have this, something like 3 meters in some places, literally overnight. And I went skiing actually on the weekend instead to Verbier. Verbier was in great condition. You can ski already down to Ruinat, and resorts are starting to open up all over the place. So we've had a really, really good sort of November snow season so far, which hopefully bodes well for the rest of the ski season here in Europe. We're going to carry on now with the podcast. There's a little bit more on teaching, the general management of how you just share how you run a ski school that is that big. And then inevitably I do touch on a little technical question and one of my pet topics, which Jon and I share a love for sort of longer skis, and also, well, that said, thanks to you, Head, I'm now skiing on a slightly shorter ski. So I've gone for the iSpeed Pro 180 18 meter radius ski, and I have to say, coming to that off the back of a 25 meter radius GS ski, which I've been skiing for the last 2 years, it feels like it turns like a slalom ski, even though it's an 18 meter radius ski. It's absolutely extraordinary, and it really hooks up. It's nice and light, and I can see that being my sort of go-to teaching ski for this year. Head also supplied me with a 175 iRace Pro, which is like a 15-meter radius ski, but I'm expecting that to be extremely twitchy. I haven't tried it out yet. But I'm expecting that to be really, really twitchy, and I'll probably only use that for training days or days where I've got to look really, really dynamic. So that's good. Another goal for mine is my new boots, the Head Raptor 140 RS. I've managed to make them fit. They're comfortable, and this is going to be a first because I've had the same boot for the last 2 years. Also a Head, but it just didn't work properly for me, that one, and so I think we've had to start again, and this new boot appears at first touch to be quite comfortable. So there you go. That's my little commercial endorsement for Head. I didn't need to do it, but thank you, Head, for doing that, for sorting me out. I really appreciate that. And so on with the podcast. So Jon carries on talking a bit more about teaching, and then there's a sort of inevitable technical question at the end. So enjoy the rest of this. Hopefully I'll get another interview with Jon further down the line, because I'd love to chat to him about a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm just lining up the rest of the autumn series of interviews and going on into the winter. So I hope there's snow where you are, and enjoy yourself, and stay safe, and I will see you on the next podcast. How do you keep, still on the subject of teaching, how do you then keep that consistency of that message across the whole of the 1,200 instructors that you've got?
You don't.
Okay. So what, people are just like freestyling? Or is it kind of live by the sword, die by the sword?
You do it through values, not through messaging. Because for this to happen, it has to be truly authentic. I don't want to go out. If I went out and was doing some QA, some quality assurance, quality control, and just tagging lessons, and I saw every lesson doing the same thing, and I saw progressions being the same stuff, and I saw the guest interaction being the same, we would have failed.
Okay. So your instructors have freedom.
I'm not interested in consistent messaging. I'm interested in consistent values and consistent quality of experience. But one of the consistencies is that every person should have a uniquely memorable, personalized experience, which means that we train pros not to be totally consistent. Yeah, we give them a bag of tricks and some tools to work with, because that's what they need. But we give them the autonomy to figure out how to reach the guest. And the biggest tools we try to give them is ways to engage people, so that the technical stuff is what helps them get there. But what really gets them there is the engagement.
Okay. So within the structure, you've got a lot of guys that have the freedom to kind of go off at tangents and do whatever. You're not being prescriptive in terms of how you tell them to teach. That's pretty cool, right? I would imagine that you've got guys there also, guys and girls there from all sorts of different places and systems and whatever. And we are not like the Borg. We're not going to assimilate them and make their likeness part of ours to make a consistent generic thing. We try to be a complete melting pot. Now, look, you train different levels of people differently. If Joe's a brand new pro and they've never taught in their life before, we don't have a lot of those. Our turnover is very low. We keep over 90% of our staff year over year. Wow, that's amazing.
And we have people here for 40, 50 years. That's not uncommon. I mean, I've been here 21 years and I'm still a baby in certain locker rooms. You walk into Aspen Mountain locker room and I'm like, I'm not even to the halfway point of this group. I'm not going to make a person who's been doing this 15 years longer than I have. I'm not going to make a person who's been doing this 8 years longer than I've been alive, 10 years longer than I've been alive, say, hey, now you have to do it like this. You know what they're going to say to me? It's not very polite. They have a very successful career, arguably more successful than mine ever was in teaching, because they know what they're doing. I'd more be interested in saying, how have you been so successful, and how can we pass those values on to somebody else so they can independently create their own way of doing things? Now, but you get the new person who's never taught before. Yeah, we say, hey, look, here's a template. Follow this until you master it, and then grow past it.
Yeah.
So people have at least something to do in every area that's safe, that's meaningful, that gives them a framework to grow in. And then the better they get, the more autonomy they achieve. We call it earned autonomy here, where you start off with a little bit of autonomy, You have your parameters. Everybody has autonomy, but the parameters are much tighter when you have very low skill and very low history of responsibility. But the more history of responsibility measured in business growth and your organizational citizenship and that kind of stuff, and measured in skill level, in certification and experience, you get more and more autonomy to the point of where we really just don't manage our most autonomous people, which is a huge number of our pros. We don't manage, we support.
Okay. And how are they, let's say, I mean, are they, when they get rebooked and stuff, let's say you've got your most popular guys and they're rebooked 75, 90% of the time, do they...
Or 100% of the time, which is a lot of them.
Are they running their own diaries, and they just kind of pop into the office and say, hey, I did this, or does it all come through? I imagine you've got some sort of enormous central booking system.
It's centralized, but they run their own diary. For a long time, when I came here, I ran my own diary, and I would hand in the beginning of the season, I'd email it in or something. Here are my lists. Here are my contact information. Please go ahead and put that on my schedule, and feel free to book me any other days.
Okay.
And then as I got busier out of town with examining and team stuff and things like that, it would be like, okay, here are my days that I'm in town, that I'm available. Here's all my bookings. Please put them in. And I put them to go into the office and work with them. We have deadlines. We're running a business, so there's deadlines that people have to have this stuff done. But that's part of earned autonomy. Part of it is, if a pro wants the autonomy, they have to manage their business in a way that we can understand it. But as long as they do, we're never going to get in the way of that. So, like, say the Christmas holidays, where we all have wait lists and we're all booked out, right? We require bookings to be in by a certain date. And then if they're not in by a certain date, we assume you're available. And then if you're available, we're going to fill your schedule.
Okay.
But as long as you get it in by a certain date, we know you're not available, and you have that you have the autonomy to that point. Nowadays, we use a different system. We standardize the system so our pros can put in their bookings directly into the system. They don't have to hand it into the office, and then we can see it. It's an online system that we have that pros manage their own schedule to certain dates within certain parameters, but they put in all their own bookings.
That's interesting. Okay. And then...
So in a sense, they run their own diary, but we all have the same diary. How's that?
Now, is there... Here's the $1 million question. Is there some sort of seniority list? Yeah, I mean, my small team of 10, I know who I fill out first. A new guy, new guy who comes on this year, like he's at the bottom, blah, blah, blah. But how do you do that with 1,200 people?
There's 4 mountains.
Okay.
And in each mountain, there's, at Aspen Mountain, it's all one group. At Highlands, there's some kids products and some adult products and some private products. At Highland, at Buttermilk, there's a team of pros who are dedicated to kids, a team that are dedicated to private lessons, a team that's snowboard, a team that's adults, and a team that's 6 years and under. So the priority systems. Some mountains have a priority system, some don't. Aspen Mountain has no written seniority system.
Okay.
But it's all really highly qualified. Everybody's. It's not unlike what you would have in a French ski school, where everybody's full cert and above, right? That's what you are.
Yeah.
So it's we don't run on a seniority system there. The same at Highlands. It has a little greater range of certification, but the top is the same as Aspen Mountain, and it does not have a set priority system. But it's a smaller school too. It's about 95 people, and High Aspen Mountain is something like 128 or 130.
Okay.
Then you get to Buttermilk, which is about 340, 350 people. They have a couple different priority systems based on the business needs, such as the snowboard has a slightly different one than the alpine side, and the kids 6 and under has a slightly different one because they have different programs there. But that really just goes, if you show up to lineup or you go into a group lesson, it's a guideline for how we assign. It's not a serial linear thing where we say, okay, you're number 4, so you're going to work before number 5. We don't work that way.
Okay.
It's a guideline to help us get the right match of guest to pro, pro to guest.
Okay.
And create some equity, and it creates some transparency for what a pro has to do to move up in that. For example, extra certifications or multidiscipline things or years of experience to a degree, but we don't value that one nearly as much because there's a certain point at which more years don't help you be better.
Yes, that's true.
Let's say The value of 10 years over 11 years over 10 years, nominal. The value of 3 years over 1 year, huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a point at which you say, okay, that's enough. What I'm really interested in is, what are you doing for continuing education? What kind of training have you done? Do you have specialties in freestyle, in children, in second disciplines, in racing? Do you have continuing education? Right. How many request hours? What's your return? What's your return on, if I give you somebody, how often do you bring them back?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of class averages do you have? How are you handling your paperwork side of things, your professionalism? So those all go into creating a seniority list. Now you go to Snowmass, there's 700 people who work on that mountain. Yeah, there's 3 or 4. I'm getting this wrong. They're in a process of redevelopment, but there's 3 or 4 different priority systems that are all based on the same values. Overarching, we have a guiding statement that we have out there. It's kind of a value system of how we match guest to pro. And essentially, without getting into the wording, because I don't have it in front of me, but it basically says, regardless of our any priority system we create, has the purpose of finding the most perfect match for the pro and the guest. So that relationship is going to be spot on.
Okay.
And it's got to be right for both sides. The guest has to be right for the pro, and the pro has to be right for the guest. It's an attachment created. It means it's a reciprocal relationship. And what we're trying to do is set that both parties up for success in future bookings. So that guest will come back because of their relationship with that pro, and that pro will want to come back because of their relationship with that guest. So any system we create tries to create that. And any opportunity at managerial discretion, the ability to create that result supersedes any system.
I understand. That's I try to do that on a much smaller scale than what you guys are doing. I guess
I
you try to match the client as best you
management or
can.
directors
Right?
would say that is our goal. There's nothing new about that.
No, but it must be.
Just because of the quality of the people we have and our values based way of management versus a control based way of management. We just formalize that and tell people this is how we're going to do it.
But that puts a lot of pressure on those guys and girls in the booking office, right? Because they've got to know everybody, and how they think will best match. How do you do that? How do they know everybody?
A lot of alcohol.
A lot of like meet and greets.
We try to do that, but one things we have in all of our management team, with the exception of a few, came through the school as pros.
Oh, okay.
So, say in Snowmass, where we've got 3 private lesson assigning coordinators and a private lesson manager, they all were they're all full certs. They're all full cert pros. Some of them are former children's examiners. Some of them are current examiners. Some of them are former examiners in other areas. But they all came through their pro body. So there's a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge. And somebody who would come in from the outside, which is rare, but it happens, we make sure that they learn that piece. So that information is passed, and we spend a lot of time trying to understand the business on that side. Even our strictly office people who really are, our management team that does just the reservations. The person who's in charge of that was a pro here starting in 1976 and was one of our most successful private lesson pros until she decided to move into management and now runs all the systems for that side of things. Like our person who manages the transaction side of things and reservation specialist. She's our management team member who handles all the reservations and transactions in Snowmass. Her husband's a ski pro here, so she's got a long history in the school as well. People don't move into those management roles unless they've been with us typically for a while in one area or another, because the need to know not just the pro but the guest as well, and understand the relationship between the pro and the guest that we are all here to support. I mean, that is the goal of all of us as management, is to support the relationship between the pro and the guest and figure out how to make that the most successful thing it can be for both parties. You have to know that to be able to support it.
It's true that, I mean, I try to focus on the same thing myself, to almost the detriment of everything else. It's like if you just focus on the quality of the thing that you are delivering, everything else should take care of itself.
That is it. We are an experience-based industry. Yeah. If we support the things that create that experience, which is guest support, it's pro support, it's making sure both parties are perfectly, and it's easy for the pro to create the relationship because the other crap they have to do is taken care of.
Yeah.
We're going to be a successful business.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, just here, I can put a little break in here. But how are we doing for time? Where are you pressed?
I've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, because what I normally do at the end is give you a little chance to kind of plug yourself or what it is you're doing. But I'll ask you one technical question. I know I said I'd focus on teaching.
Oh yeah, it's
but
all good.
Here's your technical question for you, because I've seen a couple of videos of you, and it looked to me that you're also a fan of a longer ski. I saw you actually ripping some moguls on a video somewhere on some 188 30 meter radius, which is a lovely ski.
Women's
for
World
sure.
Cup. Yep. That's my favorite ski in my quiver, is my 30 meter radius women's ski.
That's interesting.
Either that or my U16 25 meter 184. I like that one a lot too.
Yeah,
GS skis are what I lean towards.
It's funny because I've been skiing around on a long ski for a while now, and I've literally just gone to a 180 head iSpeed Pro 18 meter radius, and my god, it turns so fast compared to.
It's fun though. Super fun.
It's like being a slalom ski.
I mean, it's not a blizzard, but it's a great ski.
Yeah. How come you're into long skis? What's your deal with that?
I find it more comfortable.
Yeah.
My pure preference. This is not like one's better than the other, because some of my favorite skiers in the world ski primarily on slalom skis.
Yeah.
And I spend a fair amount of time on slalom ski also, but I prefer to make the feeling of taking a longer ski and making it make a tighter radius, a longer radius turning ski. So a GS ski, trying to make that into a tighter radius, than the feeling of taking the ski that's made to make a shorter radius and make it into a longer radius.
Yeah, because you just feel like you're waiting.
I'd rather not fight the ski pulling into the turn. I'd rather work the ski pushing into the turn.
Yeah, it's interesting on this new ski. It might be in the snow. You never know, but it might have been the snow. But I took it to Verbier at the weekend, and it does not want to skid a short turn like the GS ski did. You know, it just wants to hook up straight away.
There's a lot more self-steering that takes over.
Yeah.
Think about making a. I mean, I love my slalom skis for slalom. When I start doing longer turns on a slalom ski, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I have to fake it in some way because the ski just wants to turn. Whereas a GS ski, I can add other mechanics like rotary mechanics or stronger fore-aft movement to bend the ski more. When I get past where it can bend, I can add a steering angle to it. And I find it to be more versatile in that sense. But that's not an objective statement for everybody. That's just what I find more comfortable. Because when I speak to some of my closest friends who I work with in Rookie Academy, like JF, Ballou, or Riley, Riley skis on everything. But JF prefers the exact opposite. He loves the feel of a slalom ski, and the guy he's one of the best skiers I've ever seen. So it's not like there's a right or wrong to this one. It's a total personal preference.
Yeah. No,
I can tell you when I move between slalom and GS, even onto a super G ski sometimes, when I make those changes on pretty much a narrow waisted ski but radius, it really helps me if I change regularly, like a few days a week on each. It really helps me become a more versatile skier because it helps me become more adaptable to fore-aft movements and rotational input, and it makes those sort of adaptations become innate and automatic as opposed to conscious. So I find a lot of value in switching back and forth.
Yeah, I understand that. All right. Well, look. I know you're pressed for time, so we'll keep this one short. Maybe we can do a follow-up one another time for sure.
I'd love to.
If people want to find you for whatever reason, they're interested in what you do. Where can people kind of get in touch?
Well, you can find me through Aspen Snowmass, through the school here. The easiest way to reach me is typically, Facebook Messenger. My profile on Facebook is very easy to find. It's just my name, Jonathan Ballou. Or on YouTube, Jonathan Ballou is my channel title. And I respond to messages in both areas. But people are welcome to contact me or find my social feeds and look me up if you're in Aspen.
All right. Terrific. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you to your series of afternoon meetings. I don't envy you. I don't do meetings anymore, and that's one of the joys of working for yourself, which is great. But
absolutely,
yeah, I'll leave you.
I've got the joys of middle management is meetings.
Yeah, well, you got to do. That's understandable. But look, you have a great day. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, and hopefully we can get you on again soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, John. Thank you.